Hello, and welcome to the Empowerography Podcast. This is a platform created for women's voices to be heard and a place to share their stories, journeys, and successes with the world for the purpose of helping other women who might be on similar journeys. We are empowering women one episode at a time. I'm your host, Brad Walsh, so kick back, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the stories. What if I told you the only thing standing between you and your next big opportunity is your voice? This isn't just another program. Empower Your Message is your ticket to becoming the podcast guest everyone wants. You'll learn how to craft a pitch that gets a hell yes, show up with unshakable confidence, and drop truth bombs that leave hosts and audiences wanting more. No more playing small. No more waiting for permission. It's your time to be heard. Loud, clear, and unforgettable. Visit the link in the show notes to sign up, and let's make your voice impossible to ignore. The mic is waiting. Are you ready? Hello there, Brad Walsh here, your host of the Empowerography Podcast, a platform that was created to help elevate and amplify the voices of women through sharing their stories. Today, my guest is Angelique Strang. She is a trauma disruptor, a healer, a truth teller, a speaker on grief, addiction, and healing, who helps parents navigate grief, and also a fierce advocate for parents navigating the unimaginable. Welcome, Angelique. How you doing today?
Thank you. I am good. I'm excited that we're finally doing this. It's been like, what?
I know.
2 years in the making.
Yeah, it's been a while, so it's nice to finally have you here. I'm excited to jump in and share a little bit about your story, your journey, and of course, the beautiful light you put out into the world through the amazing work that you do. So with that being said, let's jump right in and get this party started.
All right.
Angelique, you have lived through the kind of loss that most people can't even fathom. When the world around you shattered, what was the very first thread of hope or even breath that kept you here?
First of all, my kids. And second of all, our mutual friend Cecilia channeled both of my boys very quickly after they passed. And that...
Why don't you tell... Could you...
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. It's okay.
That channeling, that being able to hear them speak through her, that was such a beautiful gift. And because I know they're still there. I know they're still here always, but being able to hear what they had to say from the other side of the veil was such a beautiful gift and gave me that peace that they were okay.
Yeah. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that, your story?
Okay. I'll go just before I lost my first son. I had just put myself in a couple different circles of support that just came about with Cecilia. We had just started a mastermind of a handful of women and became a very intimate group of us. There were only 5 of us. And then I was in another container with Holly Starr, and it was, I believe it was her mirror work, self-love container. And had no idea why I had done that, because it was just within 2 or 3 months later that I lost my first son to fentanyl overdose. And the women in the mastermind with Cecilia, those women were my rock. They saved me. I don't think I wouldn't be sitting here without those 4 women. They held me, everything. I don't live close to my kids. They're 1,800 miles away. So I'm here by myself when I lost both of my boys. And if I hadn't had that kind of support that can energetically hold you, because having people around you, yes, that's necessary too. But that energetic support for those moments when you are all alone or in the middle of the night when nobody's there, and having those women constantly holding me that way was just phenomenal.
Yeah. And so how long after you lost your first son did you lose your second? What was the time
8
between
months.
those two?
8
Oh
months.
my gosh.
So after we lost Doug in October 2nd, and James came, he actually came here to stay with me the end of December. He was very much spiraling, he was almost 4 years alcohol sober, but we did not know that he had been doing other drugs during that time. He was very proud of his sobriety, but he was also doing cocaine. Nobody knew.
Yeah.
But
Right.
he had unprocessed trauma and then the grief of losing his oldest brother. He just very much spiraled and then ended up losing his wife because in his state of mind, not to death, but she had to file for divorce and protective
Right.
order because in his state, he was just not safe to be around her. He would never, ever have done anything to hurt her. He adored her. But we encouraged her. It's like, you have to go get a protective order because you are not safe in that state of mind. I think he would have taken them both out in that state where he was.
Wow.
And he had burned lots of bridges. The mental health treatment and industry in the U.S. is very lacking and very ridiculous. His sisters had gotten him in for psych evals 3 separate times, and they kept him for 2 days, put him on medication, gave him a list of providers and resources, and said, here, go find your own help. And the last time he did go into rehab from like the psych eval hold, he went into rehab. This kid was super smart, very intelligent, and he knew what he could do to get himself kicked out of there. There's buzzwords that you can't say when you're in rehab.
Right.
And he's that kid. So he got himself kicked out in 2 weeks, and mom was the last resort he had. So he wanted to come home. Here in Arizona, my 7 younger kids were all born here, and this was home. And he had been telling me for a year or so about coming home, that he really felt like he wanted to come home. And at that time, we had no idea what was going on. And so he was actually sober for the first several weeks he was here and stopped taking his meds because we are a legal THC state. And which I have no problem with. I'd much rather have him on something natural that is benefiting him than have him on pharmaceuticals. Because
for sure,
he told me, I said, are you taking your anxiety meds? Or are you taking any of the others? And he said, no. He said, I can't feel anything. I take them. He said, I can't even cry when I'm on those meds. I was like, then I can't argue with that because you have to feel to process.
Yeah, of course, of course.
But he told me a lot, very often. He said, I don't want to die, but I don't want to live like this. He really was trying to find his way back to himself. And they ruled his death as a suicide, but his blood alcohol was 0.4. It was 5 times over the legal limit. And I'm like, he couldn't make that conscious choice of suicide. And that was one thing that I got to ask him through Cecilia was this intentional? And he said no. So that gave all of us closure. That
I'm sure.
Even it was very hard to go get his death certificate and read suicide. And I argued with the medical place because I'm like, how can you rule it suicide if that was what his blood alcohol was? And she said, I agree. But because of the police report and the way that the details that I was given, that's the only thing I can do.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
That's heavy.
Yeah.
Heavy. We always hear people say time heals all wounds, but when it comes to losing a child, and of course I cannot speak to this, but when it comes to losing a child, and in your case too, how do you even begin to rebuild that relationship with time?
One moment at a time. And I've said that for years and years, that we only have this moment. but we get caught up in the everyday and the hustle and the drive and all the things. And going through this has really taught me. And that was one thing that James taught me while he was here is you can't worry about what's happening next or what already happened. You have to just stay in that moment. And that's how grief comes, is in the moment and in the waves. And learning to process it in those moments is the only way that you'll get through it.
Yeah. It's hard though to for a lot of people, I think, to stay in that present moment and to be present in the moment, because we're constantly thinking about, oh, I fucked this up in the past, or I shouldn't have done this, or I should have done it differently here. And then, of course, we're also worried about what's coming in the future. And so, first of all, nobody's promised tomorrow.
Yep.
We're not guaranteed. Nobody's guaranteed that. So that right there, it's a big thing to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
That should be part of it. It's not here yet. So what the fuck am I doing? I'm driving myself nuts worrying about what could happen or what's going to happen. It's not worth it.
No.
But it is a hard fucking mindset and hard thing to wrap your head around, that all we have is right now, right here, this particular moment. Like this moment right here you and I are having. This is all we have right now.
Absolutely. We're not even promised the next moment. And both of my boys died that way suddenly. James was in intensive care for 5 days, but he had irrecoverable brain damage. And so he wasn't living. So it still was that moment. My older son, it was fentanyl and it was immediate.
Yeah.
And James got hit by a truck. And I was there. They came and knocked on my door, his friend, and it was right around the corner from where I lived. I was midnight in my pajamas out in the middle of the street and had police telling me that I couldn't be in the street. And my kid is laying there and they wouldn't let me near him and kicked me out. But that moment was gone. They had that moment and then they didn't. They were gone.
Yeah. And so how did your relationship with God, faith, or spirituality evolve through your pain? Did it fracture? Did it strengthen? Did it transform? All of the above?
Right. Yeah, actually, probably all of the above, because it kind of is a whole process. You go through the stages of grief, but you also go through all the emotions and the guilt and the shame and the regret. And it ultimately strengthened my spirituality because I know that they're still there. They talk to me all the time, send me messages. So that is way stronger than it's ever been. And if I get too much in my head and too much in my human, they smack me around a little bit. They're just as ornery on the other side of the veil as they were here. But very much strengthened it and taught me to be more conscious and intentional about staying connected. Because sometimes I'll catch myself and I'll be like, oh, I've been so busy and caught up in the chaos of life, and I don't hear them when that happens.
Yeah, of course, because there's too much going on externally.
Yeah.
So you have to take those, as we were just talking about, those present moments, those moments to be present with yourself and to sit with yourself so you can tune in and hear them.
Yeah.
Because that's your North Star.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Or they'll take over my playlist in my car, or they'll do some crazy thing and be like, hey, Mom.
Wait, stop. So you mentioned you have other children. So how, if at all, did grief change the way you see the word mother?
Oh, wow. And this was a process, and I'm still learning. But
I'm sure.
For so long, I was the rock. My kids went through a lot of trauma. I lived through 30 years of domestic violence and abuse, and they grew up with that trauma. But Mom was always the stable, non-addict, the sober parent, and always the primary caregiver. But I have learned that it's not my job to save them. It's not my job to fix them and rescue them and be the safety net. And my youngest My twins are 27 years old, and I'm just now figuring this out. And
Parenthood's a fuck of a journey.
yeah, and that was one thing my oldest, when he channeled through Cecilia, my oldest dad told me, he said, Mom, you are the miracle. And you kept us all alive through all the shit. But it was not your job once we became adults. That was our place.
That's a powerful message.
And it was hard to hear, even though it was a two-edged sword. It's like, that's such a huge relief to not take that guilt on any longer. But it was also that, how can you not? You have been that rock. You have been the glue, and you don't want your kids to go through that pain and that suffering. But I'm learning that when they start to walk as babies, we don't wrap them up in bubble wrap and we don't follow them around with a pillow. They have to.
Some people do.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. But you have to let them fall.
Yes.
And when you stop and focus back on yourself and think about it, if we hadn't failed, we would have not learned anything.
That's right. Yeah.
And so we have to allow them that same path. They have their own soul contracts. They have their own journey and their own lessons. And if I interfere, I'm actually taking away from that.
Yeah, you're messing with the divine path for them.
Yes.
And we're not meant to do that. It's hard to see your kids struggle and see them fail. But like you said, that's how they fucking learn. That's the only way they're going to learn. If we're constantly, like you said, to use your analogy, following them around with a pillow or whatever the case is, metaphorically speaking, then they're never going to learn. They're never going to grow. They're never going to expand.
Yeah. And I can't see, I don't know what their soul contracts and lessons that they chose were.
That's right.
How can I even, that makes me look like, oh, I know everything, which I don't know everything. And I made a lot of mistakes, but if they don't have those losses and that failing forward, they're never going to expand, and they're never going to find out what their sole purpose is. And so,
well, and who the fuck do we think we are to fuck with the order of things?
Exactly. It's not my job anymore.
No, definitely not. What would you say is one of the most honest things that no one ever told you about losing a child?
Gosh. See, this was one I struggled when I was reading it. That I would survive it, honestly. I've been around a lot of people, and I felt a lot of guilt sometimes over the years that I've known a lot of people that had fertility issues and couldn't have kids, and here I am with 10. And we used to joke that we'd have hallway sex. We'd pass in the hallway and say, fuck you, and I was pregnant. But I got them through so much. We lived through hell, and I've seen my life flash before my eyes at the hands of their fathers, and we all survived. And then I lose them. I never ever expected that.
I can't even begin to imagine what that is like. My uncle lost his son, my cousin, and I know people that have lost kids, you and others, but I can't even begin to grasp or imagine what that loss is. You can lose, and again, you can't compare losses, like someone losing their father versus losing a child, or losing their grandmother, or losing a pet. Loss is different for everyone, but as parents, we always expect that we will go before our children. We never, ever even dreamed that our kids would go before us.
Yeah, it's not, so the order is not bury your children. And you have all those expectations and, the dreams that you've had for those kids for their whole lives. And I have had people too that have lost kids that I've known, and I just can't fathom that either until and we call it the club that nobody ever wants to join. And it's just crazy to think about. It happens every day.
For sure.
And I understand you can't compare loss, but I have lost a foster sister when I was a teenager. I lost my dad 8 years ago. I lost my grandparents when I was young. But losing a child, especially as a mom,
Yeah.
we grew that child. We created that
Yeah.
baby inside of us. And,
Yeah.
and for my oldest, not only that, but he had children. And his first granddaughter was 2 weeks old. He never got to meet her.
Jesus.
Yeah. So that is just like a throat punch over and over when you think about all these pieces that go with it.
Yeah.
But grieving them and leaning into, I call it the portal of grief, taught me that I never learned how to grieve. And I never really understood what it is until this last 2 years. And I had to go back and grieve people that I had lost. I never grieved my foster sister because I was 16 and nobody talks about it. Nobody teaches you how. I had to go through that and through my grandparents and my dad. And like you said, even losing pets. Grief is not just death. It's any perceived loss. And
yeah, for sure.
We experience it sometimes every day.
Yeah. Yeah. We as humans aren't taught how to grieve, or we're also not taught how to support those who are grieving. There's so many things that we need to learn as a human race and individually. That's our own individual journey to learn that, because nobody, not one single person on this planet is going to escape grief. You are going to deal with it multiple times in your lifetime. So it's best to equip yourself and learn the tools that you can find and use to help you get through, and to also be a support to others, because people say the dumbest shit sometimes, and through no fault of their own. They don't know. We don't know what we don't know. So I think people like yourself who are doing this work to help people, to help educate people on grieving and things like that, we need more of that in the world. We need to have more conversations about this, because through conversation, that's how we learn. And I've said this multiple times, is that conversation is the catalyst for change. This is what we need to do. We need to talk about this stuff. And people don't want to talk about it because it's sad, it's tragic, it's all of the things, but we have to talk about it.
And that's why people don't know what to say to you, because they have to face their own fear to support you.
Yeah.
And if they haven't had that same type of loss, that brings up all the triggers about, I may lose a parent. I'm going to lose a parent at some point, or I could lose a child tomorrow.
Yeah.
And all those fears come up, and nobody wants to deal with that.
Yeah, for sure. So when people would tell you, oh, you're so strong, did you ever feel that like a curse instead of a compliment?
Yes and no. I do. I've been told that a lot through my life, because I've had a lot of really big lessons to learn, and I chose really big experiences. But it's just been probably in the last 2 or 3 months that I hear people tell me all the time, oh, you're so resilient. And that triggered me. I don't fucking want to be resilient anymore. I don't want to be strong anymore. And I really had to process through that just recently, that, okay, in the moments and going through it, I had no other choice.
Yeah.
It was either keep going. I have 8 other children to support. 8 children that have lost siblings. Yeah. And that's a whole different type of grief. And I still need to live for them. And I still need...
Yes, but you also have to have the space for grieving for yourself.
Yes. And it's hard being told I'm resilient. And I'm like, no, it's just...
I want this.
I didn't have any other options. It's either I lay down and die, or I keep going forward. But
Yeah.
As I've gone through this and gotten to know other families and other parents that have lost children or have gone through different kinds of death loss, not everybody does keep moving. They're still living,
No.
but they're stuck.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
stuck in that grief and they're not moving forward. They're not processing. 5 years later, and they're still can't say their child's name or they still can't
Yeah.
talk about them. And that just breaks my heart because if I couldn't talk about my kids, I'd be lost. And if I didn't,
That was my uncle. That was my uncle. He could not say his son's name. He couldn't hear anyone talking about him. He could not go to his grave to visit. Not like he couldn't deal. He just could not deal. And that is heartbreaking.
it is. And there's a song lyric that I like to quote, and I can't remember the song right off the top of my head, but it's like, they say you die twice. Once when you stop breathing, and once when people stop saying your name. And it keeps their memories alive. And my boys have told me, we've fulfilled our soul contracts, but we have not fulfilled our legacy. And our legacy lives through you. Can't stop talking about them because
No.
they are still channeling. They said there's still work we had to do, we couldn't do in our human form, but we can do it through you.
Yeah. And that's a beautiful message of hope.
Yeah.
And to keep going.
Yes, it is. It's also daunting when you stop and think about it.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a big thing to fulfill and to keep, because sometimes I'm sure you just want to fucking be like, just stop everything for a moment, please.
And you learn that you have to do that.
Yeah.
And that's
for sure.
Another thing that I have really been conscious of is taking time.
It's important to your mental health, to your well-being, to everything.
Yeah. You have to. Even if it is only a moment. I have talked for years about that pause or the liminal spaces because that's where magic happens, is in those liminal spaces. That space between the veil and reality and those moments between sleep and awake. Those are the ones most people can relate to. Those liminal spaces is where we learn so much. And if we don't create those intentionally, we miss it.
Yep, for sure. So in the stillness of all your grief, did you ever feel like your body became the tomb where your old self was buried?
Yes, probably for a while. But because I'm an empath and a Reiki master, I know that I have to release. I have learned when I take on everybody else's stuff and I take on those emotions and that energy from other people, that it has to be released because it's not mine. And we can't hold all of that and still be us.
Yeah.
So that's a whole different kind of grief too, is to release those old versions of ourselves and letting go of that and saying, okay, thank you. I love you for who you were and how you served me, but that's not who we are anymore.
Yeah.
And being able to let that go.
Which is hard. The letting go piece is fucking hard.
It is. But when you realize how light you feel and how free it feels.
It's like chains have been lifted off your shoulders.
Exactly.
Yeah. What would you say was one of the most haunting questions you asked God or Spirit? And did you ever get an answer?
This one puzzled me too. I think it was one of the most recent outcries that I had back in the spring. I was home to visit. My youngest daughter had graduated with her master's degree. And I was home for graduation and visit. And there was still been lots of chaos in my family. And my kids are grieving, and there's still unprocessed trauma and mental health and addiction going on with my living children. And I was out driving around, and I was like, why did my kids choose such hard fucking lessons? And I didn't even say it out loud. it was just a thought. And before I even finished the thought, my oldest son said, because we had you, Mom.
Oh,
Because we knew you could hold it. I'm like, dude, but I don't want to. I'm
that's
tired.
intense. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
Fuck.
and that's and it goes right along with the message he told me in the very beginning too, that you are the miracle and you are the one that kept us safe and kept us alive through everything we've been through. And we're always there to be supportive, even when we didn't want it or we didn't choose it and didn't even know consciously that's what it was. But it's, I guess, we all chose big lessons.
This was all of this is your soul contract and you're choosing
Right.
the path. So it's all part of it. Fuck. Did you ever reach a point where you didn't recognize the woman in the mirror? And what did it take for you to meet her again?
Some days I still don't.
I'm sure.
And hopefully, we're forever evolving and
Right.
ever learning and growing. But it takes that intentionality of connection and taking those moments to consciously reconnect with our soul.
Yeah.
Who we are and remembering who we came here to be. And like you said, this has been my lesson, is coming back to who I came here to be and remembering why I'm here. And it's not been an easy path. I just turned 58 and it's taken me 58 years to learn some of this shit.
Yeah, of course. Some of this shit is hard lessons. And sometimes we have to get beat over the head with a 2x4 before we actually learn the lesson, because the universe is throwing pebbles to start off. Say, hey, wake up, Brad, or wake up, Angelique. Pay attention here. We don't listen. The rocks get bigger. And then it's the 2x4. It's okay. You're not fucking listening. Here comes the 2x4. Wake the fuck up and listen.
Right. And some of us,
I'm trying to tell you something. I'm trying to show you. Yeah, absolutely. But again, that's our journey, right?
Yeah.
And it's through those lessons that hopefully we come out the other side and it doesn't take the 2x4 for the next one, because there will always be lessons. Always. Yeah. That's life, right? Absolutely. Because as you said, we are hopefully constantly evolving and growing as humans. So there's always going to be lessons for us to learn from. It's just listen the fuck up, pay attention, have the self-awareness, which isn't easy.
No. And until we're more intentional about keeping that awareness in the conscious mind.
Yeah.
That pay attention. And that's constantly what my boys are telling me. Pay attention. My younger son was Air Force. And so he's always telling me, watch the sky, Mom. Watch the sky. And I asked him one time, I'm like, you've been super quiet. Where are you? What are you doing? Why are you not talking to me? Yeah. He's, I am. You're not paying attention. Watch the sky. And he sends me clouds. He sends me weird shapes. Sends me rainbows. And I'm like, okay. And so it'll be super random sometimes when I'm just in my head and I'll see a cloud or I'll see a low-flying airplane or his stupid puppy that I inherited. I have never seen a dog that hears airplanes and watches them fly across the sky like she knows. And she keeps me in the moment all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure. But they're always there. They're always around us. It's just, and the signs are always there. This is something that I've learned over the last few years from my Nana and my dad and the others that I've lost. It's like they're always there and they're always sending signs. You just have to pay attention. You have to be aware because they are always, and all you have to do is ask and they're there. They will support you.
Or just open your eyes.
Yeah, pay attention. Absolutely. Absolutely. What's something that grief has forced you to admit to yourself that you'd been avoiding for a long time?
That I wasn't standing in my own power and staying in my own lane.
That's a big one.
Yeah. Because I used to say all the time, not my monkeys, not my circus. Other people. But when it comes to my kids, they are my monkeys. Damn it. But it's not my circus. Their chaos is not mine.
Yeah.
And learning to step back into my power and not engage in their chaos has actually cost me having a daughter that hasn't spoke to me since February, but it's also freed me from the suffering. And I know that this is her path and this is her journey. And if I am solid in my power, then I can do the energetic work, and I am the lighthouse. She's ready to come back.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Angelique. I love that. In your opinion, what truth about pain do most people run from, but you learn to stand inside of?
It's fleeting. Pain isn't that kind of pain. It's emotion. And emotions are supposed to move through us. Energy and motion. They say that emotions are only meant to be about 90 seconds, but we get stuck because we don't lean in. We fight it. We push it down. And that's when we get physical illness. We get mental health issues because we're not processing that. And that's what pain in our body is, stuck emotion that we didn't allow it to move. And that's what we do with Reiki, is we move that energy to relieve that pain because it's stuck. So we have to,
as they say, what we resist persists.
Yeah. So if we learn how to let it move, or we can cause it to move through us with movement, with whatever. I love dance. I love anything that gets your body moving, gets that energy through. And then we can see what's behind that pain.
Yeah. What is the difference between healing and returning to wholeness, in your opinion?
I really struggle lately with the word healing because we're not broken.
No.
And we don't need fixed.
No.
So I like the returning to wholeness and the remembering much better as linguistic terminology.
Yeah.
Because we're always learning, and we should be always learning, because if we're not learning and growing, we're dying.
Yeah.
Because if we're stagnant, we're going the opposite direction. So if we're always learning and growing, we're coming back to that more wholeness of remembering. I don't think we ever truly become whole in this human form, because we're here to experience all of this.
Yep, for sure. And we chose it.
Yeah. And that's what this journey is about. So it's a constant coming back and remembering who we are.
I've thought a lot about this, I would say, over the last 4 to 6 months, I guess, about soul contracts and the remembering. And one day I was sitting outside, and it just, on my veranda, and it just fucking hit me like a ton of bricks that people losing children at a young age, kids that pass at a young age, or the loss of anyone, no matter how old they are, it hurts. People will say, you had 70 years with this person. It doesn't fucking matter. It makes no fucking difference, because there's still a hole in my heart where that person was.
Right.
But it got me thinking about soul contracts, and I just learned really and embraced what the soul contracts are, and I arrived at the knowing, and this is the only thing that I can use, the only tools I can use to justify, or to make sense of, not justify, to make sense of loss when it happens to younger people, older people, no matter what. But what made me think about it was thinking about a friend of my daughter's, my youngest daughter's, who was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And I was thinking about her, and it just hit me that the soul contracts, this is what she chose. This is what she decided to her path to be, because as you stated earlier, she has reached, if she passes from this, or when someone passes at a young age, they've reached their full potential here on the earthly plane. They can't do any more work here. Their work is complete here. They have to transition to the other side in order to be able to continue their work. And because I believe they have bigger work to do from that side that cannot be completed here. And sitting with that and thinking about that and thinking about my grandmother and my father and my best friend and all of these people, that's their path. They can't do any more work on this side. And so that for me is how I've come to grips with it and come to acknowledge and try to be okay with it, because no matter what, when you lose someone, it hurts fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you can hold that in your mind and remember that their work is done here, they've got more important things to do on the other side. They've got more people to help on the other side that they couldn't help here. That gives me some solace. And that really hit me. Like, okay, I've got solace now. I can see that this is why. And that helped me a lot.
Yeah. And understanding, we talk about soul contracts a lot and it's become a buzzword, but when you really stop and understand, I had that moment of clarity with my younger son, James, because he was a full body donor. So ironically, he got hit by a very large pickup truck. Only his head was injured. The rest of
wow.
Yes.
Shit.
The rest of his body, he had very little road rash, very little bruising. If you looked from here down, you would have never known he had been hit by a truck. He was a full body donor. He saved 4 other families from losing their loved ones. If that was the only part of his soul contract, his only soul purpose, who am I to argue with that?
He fulfilled a huge fucking contract.
And not only those 4 families, but then he did skin and bone and tissue and science research and all of that. There could be thousands of lives that choice to be a full body donor impacted.
Also the ripple effect of those 4 families, their families, and so on. Like, it is fucking huge.
Yeah. And when I thought about that, and I'm like, fuck, how selfish am I if I question that? Because that's a lot of what our grief process is. We have the guilt and the regret and the shame and the anger and questioning. You go through it all. I was angry and blamed.
Of course.
I don't think I've ever said this out loud. My daughter-in-law, because my eldest son got married like just weeks before he died. I met her on video. Nobody knew. None of us knew her. I think some of my kids had met her once in person, but it was just like really sudden, and found out later that it was not great circumstances why they got married. But it was like, she was the one that wanted to try fentanyl. Because my son's choice of drug was meth. This was the first time anybody knows of that he ever tried fentanyl. So how do you wake up one morning and just, I want to try fentanyl today? It kills people.
Yeah.
I don't comprehend the addict mind. And because
you're not an addict, so you can't.
And the longer that you are actively in addiction, the more your brain changes. So I can't even think about how they process things.
Yeah, for sure.
It took me a couple days to not be super angry with her. And then there was 1 dose of Narcan, and they gave it to her.
And not your son.
And not my son. There wasn't another one.
Jesus.
And so there was big Y's.
Yeah.
And his youngest brother was with him. Hang on one second. Never mind. It went away. His youngest brother was with him. He actually died in his younger brother's arms because he tried to do CPR. He tried to save him. It also took 45 minutes for EMS to arrive because it was a Sunday in a small Indiana town. And I don't know why it took that long, but there were all these questions, and we still don't have a lot of those answers. But the only thing that I can sit with and allowed me to move on was, this was his soul contract. Fulfilled. Whether I know what his purpose is or not is none of my business. We made those agreements together before we came into this human experience. And
Yeah.
that realization is huge. Knowing that the souls talk or communicate before they come
Communicate. Yeah.
in here. And so what lessons do you want to learn? And these are the ones I want to learn. Okay, so how can we facilitate this for each other so we make those soul contracts? So when you understand that concept, you look at the bad, evil things in the world way different. Those people came here with a soul contract.
Yep.
To teach other people the lessons they agreed to.
Yep.
We came as teachers, we came as students.
For sure.
So even going through the trauma I went through with physical and mental and emotional abuse for years and years, I had to learn how to forgive into love, but then past that to see the gratitude for the lessons they taught me.
We're also here in this lifetime to repeat the lessons we didn't learn in our previous lifetimes as well. That's part of the journey too. And so what would you say is one of the most misunderstood things about grief, and what would you want to rewrite in the collective conversation around that?
I think one of the most misunderstood things is that grief only comes when someone dies, because that's just absolutely untrue. Grief is part of life. And like I said, any perceived loss, you could lose a job and grieve that job. We grieve older versions of ourselves as we grow. It's a constant part of living in this human body. And like we said, nobody teaches us that. Nobody explains grief. Nobody teaches us how to process it or how to support people. It's not just death. I grieved my kids for 20 years before I lost one, because in active addiction or in mental health cases, we've got both going on. There's constant cycles of grief. You grieve all those dreams you had for that child, all those expectations, and who that you thought they were going to be. And you grieve when you're estranged from them, or they are
for sure
out on a binge and you don't know where they are. It's just all that stuff. That's grief too.
Yeah, definitely.
Just as powerful. I just never recognized it until I lost them.
It's a shitty way to learn that fucking lesson.
Exactly.
You've said that this is not therapy, this is resurrection. What does resurrection feel like for someone who's buried pieces of themselves in loss?
For me, it was leaning and walking through that fire. And that's why I call it resurrection. Because losing a child burns away everything that's unimportant in life. You only see the vital parts.
How has telling your story changed the way that you listen to others' pain?
It has made me more compassionate and less judgmental, and taught me to see that because of those soul contracts, I can't be the judge of what's good and what's evil. And just because someone's actions are terrible and horrible, and if you're a serial killer, we judge that.
Yes.
But they still came here to learn and teach. So
that's a hard one.
It's hard. It's very hard. And people that hurt children, that's one of the biggest struggles for me. My heart is for kids. And I really struggle with people that hurt children. But those kids chose.
And see, this is the part where I struggle. That's a fucking hard thing to sit with and think that a child would choose that path like that.
But they weren't a child when they chose it.
No, No, true.
So
Very true.
that's where you
It's
have
still.
to see the big picture. And
Mhm.
we were just a soul when we chose
Yeah.
it, because that's like, why would my kids want to be my kids
Yeah.
and go through what they
Well,
through? And we made those agreements before we were human.
yeah, before we came here, for
And
sure.
they went through a lot of that pain of abuse and fear and trauma. And what lessons did you guys come here to learn? Because why would you want to do that? But,
Yeah.
and that's what he told me, because we had you.
Yeah. You call yourself a trauma disruptor. What does that mean? And what are you here to disrupt? What does that mean to you personally?
To understand that we all have trauma, but we can learn to process it in the moments and not push it down and let it build and layer until we're older. See, because I didn't know when my kids and I were in the trauma, I didn't have that knowledge of processing it and what the effects of that have. But trauma is the gateway drug. That's what causes the mental health issues. That's what causes the addiction. Because when they grew up, they started self-medicating. They tried to numb what they didn't understand. Like my younger kids, they have the trauma responses and the mental health issues and the triggers of the trauma that they don't even remember, because they were too little to remember, but their body remembers and their subconscious remembers. So if we can model as parents and adults how to process that in the moment, teach our children that, we will raise a whole generation of kids that don't have unprocessed trauma and don't go into the mental health issues and the addiction issues and the physical disease that causes. So we can disrupt the trauma at a very young age and give them the skills and the knowledge to process it early in the moment.
That's important fucking work.
Yeah.
I love that. If your sons' spirits could speak through you right now, what message would they want the world to hear, do you think?
James always is about living in the moment. He lived his whole life at pushing the edges, pushing all the boundaries, all the rules. He was my middle child, so he was the peacemaker, but he was the instigator.
Yeah.
And he was the quiet one, but he was always poking and pushing. And he really did live life to its fullest in every moment. And if we can do that even to a fraction of what he did, then we're way ahead of the game, because we get so stuck and then we lose those moments.
Yeah.
And Doug is so funny. He just wants people to know that we are all the miracles.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Thank you, James. Thank you, Doug, for the messages. What would you say to a parent sitting in the dark tonight, convinced that they'll never smile again because of the loss?
We can hold the grief and joy at the same time. Not right away, probably. It takes a little while to understand that and to choose it, but it is a choice. You have to choose to see that there still is joy. There still is love. There still is life here. And you can hold it all. We can hold all of those emotions at the same time, even though they are opposites. We can still hold them all. And that's what coming back to your soul and remembering helps us do, is we still have all that love we had for our kids or our loved ones. It's still all there. And that's what grief is. It just doesn't have anywhere to go. So if we can channel that love for them into joy and into gratitude and into loving other things and people in their honor. And that's how I carry on their legacy.
A friend of mine says grief and joy are soulmates.
Yes. Yeah. Because soulmates are opposites and it's like iron shaping iron.
If your story, Angelique, was a prayer, what would the last line be?
It's so weird to say it out loud, and I think I've only said it a couple times, that I am grateful for all of the lessons and the experiences. I'm grateful for the experiences, even in the loss and the pain and the grief, because it's taught me so much.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. What does freedom mean to you at the very deepest level, beyond money, status, or recognition?
To not be controlled by anything, not anything external and not our own subconscious limiting beliefs, to just be.
Yeah. Okay. How do you define success? What does that word mean to you?
I think the most important part of success for me is creating impact and raising the vibration of the collective. And it's one soul at a time, but the more one souls that we impact, the more it ripples.
Yeah, for sure. What does the word empowerment mean to you?
Giving, first of all, ourselves permission to learn skills and tools to process all of the shit so that we can stand in our own tower. Because the embodiment of empowerment is standing in our own tower and calling all of that back.
Beautiful. Okay, we're going to jump into a little rapid fire section. So the next grouping of questions just be 1, 2, 3 word answer type thing, okay? What is your favorite place on earth?
With my loved ones, with my kids and grandkids and great-grandkids.
What is one of your secret or hidden talents?
When I first read that last night, the first thing that came to mind was light language, because I don't talk about that. I don't know that I still have something that holds me back from doing that in public, or even though I've been told that's how I heal children.
What is one of your guilty pleasures?
Okay, I couldn't decide which one. So I have 3. Drama TV, naps, and tattoos.
Okay. What is one word that sums up your mindset?
Gratitude.
One book that changed your life?
The Celestian Prophecy.
What is one word that defines the woman you are becoming?
I think crone.
Okay. That concludes our rapid fire section. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. I created a bonus question that I did not send you ahead of time. How do you define both the kind that you give and the kind that you receive?
Wow. I think it comes down to just being present and consciously, intentionally seeing and hearing people. And that's what I would like to receive also.
If you were to, oh, sorry. Yeah. Then that's not asking for too much. Really, that's all we really all want, is just to be seen and heard. It's not asking too much.
And that really is the definition of love.
Yeah. If you were to introduce yourself to me without mentioning the work you do, where you're from, your ethnicity, your nationality, all the day-to-day superficial bullshit markers that we use in everyday life, how would you introduce yourself to me?
I am Angelique, probably the craziest, goofiest, most loyal, sassy, rebellious, compassionate people.
Okay. If you could step into my shoes, what question would you have asked yourself that I didn't ask you?
Actually, we touched on what I was thinking of for that, as about grief not just being about death. And there is always grief. It's such a broad thing, and it's just part of living.
Yeah. Okay. If you had the opportunity to sit down and have a 1-hour conversation with one woman, any woman in the world, who would it be and why?
I think Byron Katie. She wrote the book Loving What Is, and talks about being in your lane or in your business. She talks about 3 types of business. And so there's my business, which is where I should be. There's God's business, which I should have nothing to do with because I can't change anything or impact any of that. And then there's everybody else's business. And if we're meddling in everybody else's business or in God's business, who's minding ours? And the work that she does with the 4 questions she asks, that puts you back into finding the truth. We're only talking about what's true for you, and it's all subjective, but it comes down to what is your truth. And if you have this thought or feeling, who would you be without that thought or feeling? And do you want to lay it down? And it's not like you have, this is wrong, or she's always just completely non-biased, but it's like her whole thing is we create our own suffering because of what we think and the stories we tell ourselves and the stories we believe.
Yeah, for sure.
I would love to sit down and just have an hour with her.
Okay. If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Don't give away your power or anything, not even what you think is love, because if you're giving away your power, it's ending in love.
Lastly, if you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, your corner of the world, your tribe, your people, what would that last 30 seconds sound like? What words of wisdom would you impart?
You are not broken, and neither are your kids. Whether you've lost them to death, whether you're dealing with active addiction or mental health issues, you still have to save yourself first. You have to put that air mask on and save yourself before you can help them.
Beautiful. Angelique, thank you so much for taking and making the time to be here with me today. It was a beautiful, powerful, and inspiring conversation. I knew it would be. Thank you for sharing your story, your journey, and of course, the beautiful light you put out into the world through the work you do. It was an absolute honor and pleasure to have the opportunity to sit down and share your story. I appreciate you. I am grateful to call you a friend, to have you as a member of the Empowerography community. Thank you so much for showing up and shining your light.
And thank you for who you are and what you do in this world for women. It's amazing.
Thank you. I received that. Once again, my name is Brad Welsh, host of your Empowerography podcast. Today, my guest has been Angelique Strang. She is a trauma disruptor, a healer, a truth teller, speaker on grief, addiction, and healing, helping parents navigate grief, and also a fierce advocate for parents navigating the unimaginable. Thank you so much, Angelique. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at visuphoria.ca, follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast, and on Facebook at Empowerography. Please join me next time for another inspirational story from yet another amazing woman.